Hey, welcome back to the SDR Hire podcast. I'm your host, Srba, and if you are new to the channel, this is a place where you can learn from top producing salespeople what it's like working in tech sales, how do you break in, what do companies look for, and how to succeed as a SDR, all for free. Today, I'm chatting with my friend Chris from Flexprts. Chris is a CEO and co-founder at Flexprts, in charge of helping SDR teams with pipeline generation and cold outreach. We will be talking a lot about it today. A bit of background: between 2013 and 2021, his outbound sales expertise helped build three $50 million companies and raise over $400 million in venture capital. Got tired working for one business at a time. He soon became a founder at a company that ultimately failed, got back to 9-to-5 job, and quit again a few months later. Things progressed fast for Chris, and he officially launched Flexprts in January 2023 with two friends. Just 6 months, his business has grown, and now you guys offer three core services, and we will be obviously discussing them. So, hello, Chris. Welcome to the episode. What did I miss from the intro?
Nothing. It was better than the normal intro that I give to people, so thank you.
All right. Okay. So, Chris, I am inspired by your LinkedIn content. A ton of value you bring to your audience out there. It personally helped me become the top performer in my company and got my promotion within the year. So I want to thank you for your consistency, being consistent on LinkedIn and really writing regularly your posts. So let me ask you something. Is consistency important for SDRs as well? What would you say?
I think consistency is important for everyone. I think it's completely underrated. I have a rule about consistency that it helps me just like hold myself accountable to new things. So when I first started posting, I was pretty bad at posting. Like I got very little engagement, very few likes. There wasn't very much positive reinforcement that was saying to me, Chris, keep posting. So I was feeling bad about myself and how good I was. That was kind of telling me stop doing it. But I committed to 12 months. Before I started, I said, I'm going to write for 12 months. I know that sounds crazy, right? But I read it once, and then one of my old mentors said to me, Chris, if you are really serious about anything you do, commit to it for 12 months and then judge yourself, right? So the same lesson is a lesson that I've taught a lot of SDRs is I'm going to say to you will probably suck, right? And you will feel that, and that is an emotion you're going to go through, and I'm not going to sugarcoat that. This is a new skill, it's a new role. Give it 12 months, then judge yourself. It's the same for entrepreneurs, it's AEs, sales managers. Give yourself 12 months in the role. The challenge is that you are going to feel the pain most days, right? Like when I first started posting, I felt the pain most days of being like, oh God, this is terrible. The good thing about posting though is when it doesn't do well, no one sees it anyway. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so let's forget, let's move to the next one. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
I remember, Chris, I broke into tech sales maybe less than 2 years ago, honestly. And I read somewhere one very good statement, consistently good is better than occasionally great. And I really stick to that. I remember I was really never best with cold calling. I was never best with, crafting sales messages that convert, but I was consistent, and I think that really set me apart from the rest of my SDR.
You don't have to send the best email. You don't have to be the best cold caller. You have to be good enough, right? And you have to turn up. You have to turn up every day. There's so many days. There's more days. This is the hard thing. There are always going to be more days where you don't want to do the action that you took yesterday. Or the day before, again today, for whatever reason that is. But you've got to have something inside you that holds you accountable to doing those repetitive, boring tasks. It's not the person that smashes this month out of the park that gets promoted this year. It's the person that consistently turns up and builds compound interest in the inputs that they're putting in that gets promoted at the end of the year. And that's where like I see, a lot of people go wrong. I'm not a patient person. Like I'm really not. So like it takes me everything to be like, just get good at writing and like get a viral post or just get promoted in 3 months. And actually some of the times I have to just take a step back and be like, Chris, like, come on, you got to accept this is a new skill. It's going to take time for you to master it.
Absolutely. Great insights. And since Chris, as a sales manager myself, I have to start by asking you, how would you define the role of sales manager? If I remember correctly, I will just use my notes here. I think that was you once saying, and this is the quote by Julia Zhou in The Making of a Manager. I think this thought is actually, I heard from you, to get better outcome from a group of people working together through influencing purpose, people, and process. Would you agree with that one?
So I agree with it, but I can't steal the thunder. So that is Lawrence Langstone's favorite quote and how he defines leadership and management. Lawrence is my business partner, by the way, folks, if you're listening to this, so you should definitely follow him. But for me, leadership and the sales management, sales leadership, like any leadership role, it doesn't matter whether it's sales or whatever. If you're leading a group of people, I believe that the job is to help every individual within your team reach their full potential. And there will be differences between each individual, right? But your job is to help them reach their full potential, whether that is in the role that they're doing now with you, or whether that is setting them up for success in other roles at different companies that you do not benefit from right now as a leader. That's still your job.
Yeah. Even if you have to let go your best performing SDR because he's more suitable to some other role, and you somehow want to feel it, you want to, keep it for yourself, of course.
Of course, right? I think it's ultimately what's in the best interests of the entire group and the entire team, right? And I think like for me, I've encouraged or I've helped people who were great performers leave my teams to go and embark on other endeavors. And interestingly, what's happened is some of those people have come back to my teams in the future, and gone on to perform and be great for those future teams. It's strange what happens when you like fully commit to each individual's success and what is in their best interests. The balance and the hard thing is trying to balance that with what's in the best interest of the team. But it ultimately comes down to the hierarchy of decision making, which for me and most managers get wrong, which is you've got to prioritize the team, the individuals within the team, and then yourself. And that's really difficult because obviously everyone in the team, including us as leaders, are human beings, and we're naturally a little bit selfish about the goals that we want to achieve and all of those things, right?
Chris, you talk a lot what it takes to be a successful sales manager, but often I hear you talking about sales leaders. And we know that manager is given by a title, but a leader is earned by the choice of your sales reps. It's not given to you. Like, what are some of the differences? What's the main difference? Is it about the coaching and really taking care of your reps and making sure they reach their full potentials? What are some of the traits that you find in the most successful sales leaders?
Yeah, my first ever manager / leader. Sometimes he was a manager, sometimes he was a leader. It depended, right? But depending on what mood he was in that day, right? But the thing was he always used to say to me, Chris, if you want to be a leader, then you can't ask people to do things that you're not prepared to do and demonstrate, right? If you're not prepared to show them exactly what great looks like, then they're probably not going to be able to live up to whatever standard you have in your mind. So Get out there. Because you got a management title doesn't mean that you are now too good for the phones or too good to send a cold email or too good to build a sequence. Get out there and do it with them. And what you'll find is people will respect you considerably more, right? But they'll also start to think about you as someone that is like them rather than being different to them. And they'll trust you more and they'll confide in you and they'll tell you how they feel. And when you learn how they actually really feel about certain things, then you can lead them properly or manage them properly. When you're just guessing because they don't trust you, because they tell you things that aren't necessarily true or they don't tell you the whole truth, then you're just guessing and you'll probably make a lot of bad decisions.
Absolutely. I just think that leading by example is a great leadership style. And whenever I pick up the phone, if I ask my reps to do more, to make more dials because we want to kind of book more meetings, I need to be the first one to pick up the phone. And I feel like leading by example is so effective way, and really this is, I would strongly suggest anyone, because just telling what to do without really showing, that's not going to work. And I think that's a big difference between being a manager and a leader, probably.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's a lot to be said about your point with coaching as well, right? Like coaching is super important. But one of the things about leading by example is that's actually a coaching environment. If they're watching and you demonstrate what great looks like, which is what we should be doing as leaders, they're learning. So it's not about like just doing the coaching. Coaching is them being able to learn something. Like that's for me what the definition is. So you can do that proactively or you can do it reactively.
Absolutely. Chris, before we discuss more about SDR and account executives, tips and tricks and how we do prospecting and what works well, what doesn't work well, let me ask you something I've heard for the first time, really, once I joined your bootcamp, and we will talk about this later on. Like you mentioned, there is a SDR leadership operating system. This is something I've heard for the first time, and it's pretty much a set of principles and strategies that guide leaders in effectively leading their teams towards the common goal. Why is it important to have an operating system?
I think it's important because most sales leaders are making it up as they go along, right? And in order to scale and grow something effectively, you need a system. And that system is something that you can go back to again and again and again to replicate with all of your new reps, all of your existing reps across like the core elements of what makes them successful, and just rinse and repeat. Whereas what I see most sales leaders doing is kind of making it up and never learning what works and what doesn't work. An operating system is there in place as a foundation to kind of build your house upon, so to speak, right? And it's, so essentially it's like a set of principles that can be your guide and your North Star to, okay, if this isn't going well, then maybe this is where I need to start and refresh things.
Okay, this is very important. I said that's first time I hear, and it's really a very good set of principle and guidance. What does it take? We all understand that we kind of need to lead our team towards the common goal, but somehow I find it very useful that your operating system, the one that you discuss in your boot camps, really kind of put on in a very, I would rather say, easy manner, like all these key elements, key principles that should help you really lead your team towards this common goal. So it's very, very good system. And I'm sure, most of SDRs really attending your SDR bootcamp find this interesting, SDRs, but also SDR leaders. Chris, another question that I would ask you, what would be ideal team structure and SDR account executive alignment to reach desired KPIs?
Yeah, I think that's a very difficult question to answer. I don't think there is, my honest view is that I don't think there is a desired structure in terms of like one SDR to two AEs, one SDR to three AEs, 1-to-1, that can be prescribed. I think that every business should be thinking about the SDR AE relationship in regards to profit margins and how much money that organization is spending from an SDR perspective, an AE perspective, against how much it's actually making. I think that then should guide the partnerships and how many SDRs should be supporting each AE, because there's no point saying, cool, let's have a 2-to-1 SDR relationship with AEs. It costs $200K and that only makes you $150K a year. It's got to be profitable for the business. That's ultimately what sets the SDR team and the AE team up for long-term success and growth. That's what I care a lot about.
I would probably say that team structure also depends not just on the size of the company, but are we talking about enterprise sales? Are we talking about mid-market, small business? It really has to do with many different things, whether you're going to need more SDRs on one single account executive, or it's going to be like 1-to-1 ratio, what really works best. But I think you made a good point there.
Yeah, I think honestly, it's bigger than SDR and it's bigger than AE. It's top of the business. If you're an SDR leader, you should be thinking more about how can I make my business or my department profitable in the eyes of the CFO, especially in today's market. But it was one of the things that used to help me so much as an SDR leader was I was always looking for ways to be friends with finance at my businesses. But no SDR leaders I know are doing that. They're just asking for more usually, right? More SDRs, more technology, etc. And all these things all they're doing is just making it more of a cost center, as opposed to at the end of the year when the business actually looks at, cool, what's made us the most money? So where can we reinvest more money into next year? They're going to say, yeah, well, SDR, it made us 500K, but we spent $1 million. Like, not that great an investment. So let's not give any more headcount. Whereas I used to make sure that I knew what that was tracking at and be able to say, right, so SDR is making $1 million and we're spending 500K, getting £2 for every pound we spend. How does that compare to marketing? How does that compare to these other lead gen channels? Great. We're outperforming them. That's why I think we should have more headcount. That's why I think we should reinvest in technology.
Absolutely. This is such a great idea, instead of looking at you as somebody who always asks for more money, right? And want to spend more money, really looking at a profit center. And that is why it's important really to let you hire more people if you are really making money. So this is a good perspective though.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but it's business 101. Like, you've got to make money. But the business is screwed if you're constantly spending money. But I think we live it often in the tech world, right? Specifically, we do live in this kind of almost sort of fairy tale land, or we have done, where like just spending money and losing money is very acceptable. Where's the line? I think we found the line, obviously, in the last 12, 18 months. And the market's bitten back at that. So if you can cover your back with what the numbers look like financially in terms of profit and loss, and run your department like an actual business and aim to make money and be profitable, then I promise you, as an SDR leader or a sales leader, you're going to put yourself in a really, really strong position when it comes to the end of the year or the end of the quarter and say, hey, I need more budget. I need more this. I need more that.
When speaking about more money and how we can bring more qualified demos, we all understand the importance of ICP, understanding our ICP, ideal customer profile, and targeted personas that are a great fit within our ICP criteria. You often talk about looking for timing triggers rather just only going after ICPs and personas. So I would like you really to tell me a little bit more. What do you mean by timing triggers? Maybe can you name a few examples so we get an idea of what you mean?
Yeah. So I think when it comes to the definition of ICP, my definition is that it needs to fit certain account metrics. So certain industry, size of company, etc. Needs to fit certain persona metrics. So job title, tenure, seniority, right? But it also needs to fit certain timing metrics or timing triggers, or a certain number of timing triggers that indicate that that account is going under some sort of change. So it's likely that they will be looking at buying a new solution to help them go through that change, right? Where most companies go to is they go to the first one or maybe two, where they'll say, cool, we're really good in SaaS, or we're really good in finance. That's great. But my follow-up question is, okay, and which personas within finance are you particularly good with? And then they'll generally be able to answer that. And then I'll say, okay, and what are the timing triggers that indicate that one account is worth more of your time than the other account? Because you might have a list of 100 accounts that are in SaaS, and you have a HR director that you found at that company. But I promise you, 80% of those accounts won't be in the market right now. 90% of them will not be in the market right now. If your reps are spending an equal amount of time on all of those accounts, they're probably deprioritizing the 10% that they could actually get through to and book today. And what that's leading to at the front line, when the reps are actually speaking or emailing people or reaching out, is the 10% of people who would come back and say, hey, Srba, I'll take a meeting today because your message was really good, or saying, your automated email wasn't very good, or your cold call was a terrible message, so no, thank you. And we're actually losing out on those 10% because the message is poor, because we're trying to do too many accounts and too many people rather than focusing on that 10%. And that's why I encourage you to look at timing triggers, because the triggers are what will allow you to take your list of 100 and indicate to you, if they have triggers, they'll be able to say, cool, these are the ones we should focus on today, right now. And these are the ones we should deprioritize slightly more.
Yeah, that's super powerful, because what I've seen in my own case is often we go after really good accounts, but we are not successful. And this is most likely we were not able to find the timing triggers that would make potential buyer just a good fit for us today, And so the idea of timing triggers is super powerful, and I use them a lot nowadays. And it does take a little bit more time when doing search, right? SDRs sometimes feel they just want to go on sales nav, pick up the good leads and like add them in the sequence. It does take a little bit more time, but at the same time, we are more successful and we get more qualified meetings at the end. Chris, sometimes leaders feel that it's HR jobs doing hiring and onboarding. I don't feel that way. I think we should be responsible for all the processes, including hiring and onboarding. So I would like to ask you, and I see you smiling, so probably you have some interesting insights to share with me. Uh, what what are some of when hiring SDRs? What traits do you look for? What's the most important you look for when hiring your SDRs? And is this something that should be done fully by HR, or in tandem HR and sales leaders? What would you say on this?
Yeah, I think it's important for you as a leader in the business to partner with the talent team or whoever is running talent. Usually talent falls into HR. So I really do believe that, you should be looking to cross collaborate with talent or HR, right? And a lot of sales leaders underestimate the power of this particular collaboration. Very similar to how they underestimate the power of finance collaboration. They underestimate this one. And this is the biggest miss that I see in most businesses is your job as a sales leader is to get the best players on the pitch. right, as often as you possibly can, the best for the resources you can spend on them. All right. So the best team you could possibly have, playing as many games as possible. It's the same as a high performance sport, right? You've got to have the best players on the pitch to set yourself up for success. If you as a leader are not collaborating very well with HR or talent, then the only person you're doing a disservice to is probably yourself, because it's less likely you'll be able to advertise as well. You'll get less applications, right? Et cetera, et cetera. So for me, it's working with the talent team. Now, I don't necessarily think that talent should be identifying the traits of what makes a great salesperson, but I do think that talent should be working with you in partnership on what is the structure for your interview process and why, right? What is the question bank that you're asking people to make it measurable? What are the values that you're testing people on and why? But I think, there should be, company-wide questions that are important to ask to make them fit into the company values. But then you're also going to have to look for certain traits and soft skills that are going to make them specifically good at this role. That's what I care about SDR leaders and sales leaders really understanding before they conduct interviews is, what am I actually trying to find out here? Right? Yeah, I want to find out if they can do sales, but most people leave those interviews thinking the person's going to be good at sales. Very few people leave the interview who've interviewed and said, I know they'll be good. The only way you know is because they're constructing answers that you've already seen people be successful who've given you similar answers.
Would I be correct saying that having a good job description really helps with attracting top talents? Often what I see, people having these outdated scripts and they just keep posting and sharing everywhere.
Yeah, most companies for job descriptions, they miss this. They put a very generic job description out that's been copy and pasted for the last 10 years. And it looks exactly the same as everything else. But if you think about your job description, you are putting the job description out into a marketplace, right? Like, that's all it is. It's an online marketplace. The job of the job description is to help you stand out so that the best people apply to your job. If your job description does not stand out because it's just copy and pasted, you don't care about it, how can you expect the best people to apply? So how can you expect that you're interviewing the best people? How can you expect that you're going to hire the best person for the job? So how can you expect that you're going to have the best person ramping up and calling and emailing? You can't. And it all starts with who is applying and why are they applying and standing out in that very, very busy marketplace.
That's so powerful. Sometimes I feel when reading job descriptions in our organization, they don't really let's say they don't really describe what exactly what we are looking for and what type of candidates we really want to attract. And I can take a blame on my side that I should probably be more careful and talk with my HR to kind of really do more when it comes to job descriptions.
Yeah, and I think it's less about what you are looking for. It's more about what the person on the other side is looking for, right? If I see, okay, Srba ran these businesses, built these teams, he's promoted this many people, I'm thinking, oh, I want a promotion. I want to learn skills. I want to be part of a fun team. I'm going to apply, right? But where most people go wrong is they just think, this is what I want. I want a hardworking individual. I want this, I want that. And they forget to sell, right? And the power of a job description is the written words that you put on there also sell to the person when they're reading them. Very much like when you're posting on LinkedIn or whatever, right? And building content. It's a form of content that can help sell to that person why they should apply to that role, right? And think about it like an email. If you just say, I'm looking for someone today to book a meeting with me who is a CEO and they are a high-level SaaS business, a SaaS business, and they've got lots of money, they're probably not going to come back and say, oh, I'm a CEO at high level, the SaaS business. I'll book a meeting with you. So why would we do that with job descriptions? I'm looking for a hardworking person. This is what I can offer you, right? You don't have a job right now. Here's the job. We're going to care about your development. We're going to care about your skill set. We're going to set you up for success in the future. Now the SDR who's applying is thinking, that's pretty cool. I want a bit of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, we get a good talents on the team. What would be the optimal activity volume? Do they need to send 100 emails every day? Do they need to make 100 dials every day? How can they make sure they stand out from the crowd and really hit their quotas consistently?
I think when the best people on the team are often unlikely to be doing 200, 300 dials a day, right? They're unlikely to do that. But when you first started, I think it's really important to say this, like when you're first starting, the only way you are going to catch up with people who are the top performers in the team is by doing more inputs than they do. Because what you need to close is you need to close how much they know and their knowledge gap. By doing twice as much of them or 3 times as much as them each day, you'll close the knowledge gap fast. If you just copy them exactly, then you're probably not going to do that. So I don't think that you need to necessarily do 100 dials a day, but I'll caveat it by saying, if that is what works for you, then continue to do that because that's what works for you. I would say though, that if that's how you're thinking about it, I need to just do 100 dials. I would encourage people to think about it as, how can I improve the people that I'm targeting because they're not converting? Or how can I improve what I'm saying and how I deliver that on the phone when I do get them on the phone? What's my conversion rates when I'm actually speaking to people? I think this is where people go wrong with the sentiment of you just need to do a lot. Whilst you need to do some stuff, it's also about what can you do when you are in conversation to improve your conversion rates as a sales rep. Because I don't think good sales reps are doing 300 calls a day. I think reps who are playing the numbers game are. I think good reps are doing probably 50 calls a day as an example, or a lot less. And they are having great conversations with people that are highly targeted in their lists and then being able to convert them at a high rate.
Yeah, so it is fair to say that early on as an SDR, you should probably focus more on quantity so as to lower this skill gap, as you mentioned. And then as you learn and as you grow, you should focus more on quality, if I understood you correctly. That would probably be the approach: quantity first, then quality, as you kind of build the set of skills needed for SDR role.
First 3 months, just focus on building the muscle and the routines of doing calls, facing rejection, and then turning up tomorrow and doing the calls again. Very similar to what we spoke about at the top of the podcast, right? Where it's about, writing on LinkedIn. I might have got no likes yesterday, but I will turn up tomorrow and write again. Right? It's the same with calls, same with email, same with cold outreach. Even if you got no responses yesterday or lots of no's, you've got to take that and then redo it again tomorrow. The best thing about that is because you'll have learned something from those rejections.
We are slowly coming to an end, but I have a few more questions if you don't mind. Often, sales managers will look at inputs and outputs, and it does really make sense. You see how many emails did my rep send, how many dials did it make, and LinkedIn messages, and we check all these inputs, and then from the inputs we get certain outputs, right? And we kind of are good in measuring those. We look at the tables, we look at the reports, we are almost obsessed with the reports on each and every day. But then also you talk about the middle part. There is something in the middle that somehow most of the leaders forget about this. What comes in the middle, Chris?
Well, I call it the middle metrics, right? But that's your conversion rates. It's the reps conversion rates. And if you really want to build and what I've found is because I wanted to basically, if I go a step back, I wanted to build a culture of continuous improvement in my team. Because I wanted to give them the skills to be successful. So, or help them develop those skills. But in order to build that culture and build that muscle, by just saying do more, it wasn't working, right? What instead, because the reps were doing more and they might have been getting, more outputs, but that didn't mean that they were better at sales. It just meant that they were doing more calls and getting more meetings because they'd done twice as much. What instead I wanted to be able to prove was that they were developing better skills. And that comes from your conversion metrics. So when they're actually on the phone, how many of the people who pick up are they actually converting into a nurture or into a meeting right now? How many of the meetings are converting into qualified opportunities? How many emails are being opened that I can say, great, your subject lines, you're good at writing subject lines, or you're getting better at it. And what that transferred into was the reps started to get obsessed with their middle metrics. And then in one-to-ones, they'd come to me and say, Chris, look at this email. It's got 55% open. This one's got 45%. I'm going to take that one and do more there. And that's exactly what I wanted to see, right? Because I then knew they needed to do 10% less emails total to get the same open rate, right? And they'd learned that themselves. It wasn't me forcing it on them and saying, you have to do more. It was the reps coming to me saying, I'm going to do more here, here, and here because it's winning for me.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So you have a SDR who make 10 meetings per week, and you would say, you are great, man. You are doing great. 10 meetings, that's a great number. But then the conversion rate, demo to SQL, is just 10%, Out of those 10 meetings, only one converted to SQL, which is 10%. And it's actually pretty bad, right? And that's when it comes the importance of middle metrics. 10 meetings, that's a great results, but having 10% conversion, it's actually quite bad. And I think that's why managers need to measure what you call the middle metrics.
Yeah, exactly, right. It's giving the reps the ability to see the bigger picture. It's not, think about it like going to the gym. Just because you've gone into the gym and you've then left the gym, so your inputs, your outputs, doesn't mean that whatever you've done in the middle is going to help you lose weight, help you gain muscle, right? Whatever you're doing in the middle is what's going to actually impact the result that you want the most, right? Which is probably lose weight or gain muscle, right? Or tone up, whatever. It's the same with sales. It's if you do 100 calls, aka enter the gym, and you book X amount of meetings, great. That's fantastic. This sort of input output, but there's only so many times you can go to the gym to lose so much weight, right? The question is, within that 45 minutes or hour session, what are you getting out of it with each machine that you go to? Right. And it all comes down to your technique, your ability, your strength, blah, blah, blah. Same sort of thing, same sort of principles as cold calling or cold email.
I love it. The middle metrics is so great. And when I discovered first time at your bootcamp, this was really a mind blower. I use it on a daily basis nowadays, believe me. Chris, for the end, we have a few rapid fire questions. Are you ready? Best SDR learning resource?
Free SDR learning resource, I would go to Carl Coleman's free prospecting bootcamp.
All right. Best SDR skill?
Cold calling, verbal communication, right? Being able to verbally communicate with people, high level prospects, will set you up for success, not just in AE, leadership, CSM, marketing, whatever job you want to do in the future. If you can genuinely master verbal communication, then, or at least get good at it, that will is such an underrated skill. It's not about cold calling. It's about verbal communication.
Best SDR creator to follow. Is that you or somebody else?
No, I am. It's definitely not me. My favorite SDR creator to follow is probably, he's not actually an SDR, but he's my favorite creator right now, Brian Lamana. That's who I would follow. Just based out in the States. If you want a bit of European influence, then Yuri Veremchuk is brilliant as well. He's hilarious. Absolutely love his posts.
Wow, great. Favorite SDR channel?
What do you mean, like how to message someone?
Email, call, LinkedIn, video, maybe something else.
Call. I've been brought up on the phone in my sales career, so the phone is always my go-to. The reason why is because, and I love writing, right? But with the phone, you have a bigger toolkit. It's the words you say and how you deliver them, right? That are two things in your toolkit. If you can master the words you use, great. You can unlock logic. If you can then deliver them in an incredible way, you can unlock emotion in your prospects.
And it's as human as it gets, I would say. Favorite tech sales acronym?
Favorite tech sales acronym? Honestly, SAO, Sales Accepted Opportunity. Why? Because that's always what I targeted my teams on. So that was always the North Star. That's my favorite. I know that sounds very like not cool, but it was all about getting to the SAO goal and proving that we're a high performance unit.
Love it. And where can people find you, Chris?
People can find me generally on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. I post every day. So you can find me on LinkedIn. I have also started on X/Twitter recently. So you can also find me on Twitter now as well.
Can you please spell it to make sure we all get them right?
Yeah. So LinkedIn is just Chris Ritson. X or Twitter is at the Chris Ritson.
For the end, you can promote either yourself or your org, or I know there are some new releases coming for January next year. So maybe you want to share some insights with us.
Yeah, sure. I'm not going to give away too much, but there's some exciting, well, I think they're exciting changes that are happening at my business, leading into January, for both SDRs and SDR leaders, separately. So, I will be launching a completely new product for SDRs. I'll give you a teaser. It's something to do with verbal communication and maybe being on the phone. There's a teaser for you. And then in terms of the SDR leaders, we are going to be running another bootcamp. Starts in January. This will become an every 3-month thing, specifically for SDR leaders. And we're actually going to be launching a completely new business just for SDR leaders called the SDR Leader Company. And what we will be doing there primarily is running our boot camps via that business. It is just for the SDR leaders of the world.
I was the part of your last generation of SDR leadership bootcamp, and I cannot recommend it more, for all SDR managers and leaders out there. It was really a ton of value and really helped me improve my skills. So I'm glad that you guys run this on quarterly basis, and just my huge recommendations. Chris, thank you for sharing these insights. It was super cool. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. And definitely, I cannot recommend more Flex bootcamps. So go and check out their website. It's great. You're going to see tons of value. And there is a new generation coming Is it this February 2024?
January, the end of January.
So we still have time. So guys, you still have time to enroll. Once again, I cannot recommend it more. So go on their website, check it out. Chris Ritson on the LinkedIn profile. Guys, you have to follow this guy because, I just love his content. Thanks for watching and see you all soon. And Chris, once again, thank you so much.